Alrighty guys, now hopefully you know how the 5 minute trade works and how the actual signal is created. In this case here, we've created a buy signal. So on all of our charts, on the 5 minute charts that come up in our trading rooms, you'll see the arrows come up. In this case, we've got the orange arrow pointing up, the the white arrow telling us our entry point, and so on and so on. Okay, what's the difference between a 5 minute predictive trade and a 5 minute predictive fade? Is quite simple. One, we go with the signal. So in this case, if we were taking a 5 minute trade, we would go long at the end of this 5 minutes, hoping for the market to go up. With a 5 minute fade, what we're looking for to happen is when the signal comes up, instead of going with the signal, the 5 minute trade, we go against it. So that's where the fade part comes into it. So what we're looking to do at the end of the 5 minute, when the signal is created, instead of going long here, would go short, expecting the market to come down. And that's how simply the 5 minute fade works. So we're just going to go short instead of long in this case. And how we distinguish whether this one's worth going as a 5 minute trade or as a 5 minute fade is very simple. Okay, so what we're looking for in this case is using the moving averages as a guide. So we've got our yellow moving average here coming down, and we've got our blue moving average going across here. Okay, so what you can see is about at least a half an hour before the signal was created, the yellow line had made a peak, and now it was going on the downward slope. So as it was going down, it was like converging with this blue one, looking like when we actually got the signal that it is clearly coming down and looking like crossing over, which is telling us that the trend is more likely to continue on the downside. Okay, so if we've got that yellow line pointing down like this when the trade's created, we call that a 5 minute predictive fade. So it's more likely, instead of the market going back up here, it's more likely to go down, and we would just enter at the market at 13.15.50 and go short, looking for the market continuation to go down. So this is one of the ones that we look to fade on the short side. It's really clearly, you just got to watch out for that yellow line and refer back to your trade manual. You see very good examples of it in there, that the yellow line's really in this case pointing down, telling us that the market is more on the downside now, and instead of buying here, we could potentially sell there. And these come up quite often, and they're actually very easy visually to see. So what I'll do is I'll go across the chart now, and I'll try to find one in the opposite direction for us. Okay, so here we have an example of a one that the actual 5 minute trade has triggered a short trade. Okay, but it's very clear that now this moving average is pointing up, and it's going up and looking like crossing back above the blue, so back to more to the long side. So when this is happening, this is very clear to see visually. When the actual 5 minute trade is created, in this case you would say, well, it's not really a 5 minute trade because this yellow line's not pointing down and continuing down here, because it's pointing up. At this particular point in time, it's more of a fade. So instead of going short here, what we'd actually do is go long, expecting the market to bounce back up, and that one actually would have worked out very well. Nice easy trade as well. Okay, so it's very clear on both sides. So when you're looking at it visually, you want to see, if we're going to fade it, you want the yellow line going back towards, in this case, if we're going to go long here, you want that pointing up, and if we're going short, you want it pointing down. With this particular trade, it's pretty slow moving. There's going to be a lot of trades that are neutral, so it's not more likely a fade, and it's not more likely a 5 minute trade, so you just leave the trade alone. Simple as that. But when it's very clear that this trade here is more of a fade, because we've got the moving average going straight back up, telling us that the market is more likely to bounce up then continue down, this is the ones we're looking for. So when they're very easy visually to identify, they're the ones we want to take. And when we take these trades, we're having a 1 1/4 stop, which is 6-tick stop, and going between, I would say between 2 and 3 points. More, I would go for 3 points more often than not on this particular trade, because I think it's got very good value when they come up very clearly. And if you can pick one of these trades up a week, or an extra couple of week they can add to our toolbox to add into the points, that's for sure. So I think it's one of the best ones to learn, because what you're actually doing is learning where the market's more likely to go, where it's more likely to go up, more likely to go down, and you can use it to help you out with all the other signals as well. But hopefully this just shows you really clearly that when the yellow line's pointing up, if we actually get a sell signal on the 5-minute trade, it's more of a fade. So we'll take it as a 5-minute fade. Unfortunately, I can't get the arrows to switch around to tell you, so just visually you're going to be have to do it. And as you go through, ask plenty of questions in the trading room. We can show you all the different types, and when they're coming up, you can ask plenty of questions to say, is this one more of a 5-minute trade or a 5-minute fade? And it really is as easy as that. Over time, I'm pretty sure you'll pick these up quite easily, and they're one of the best trades going around. They just don't come up all the time, but they're slow, they're conservative, and they're very good for people learning to trade. Alrighty, cheers guys.